The rain hammered against the windows of the Starbucks on Fifth Avenue, each drop a tiny percussion in the symphony of New York City's evening rush. Maya Chen pressed her face closer to the glass, watching the blur of umbrellas and designer coats hurrying past. Her own reflection stared back, hollow cheeks, dark circles under her eyes, and hair that hadn't seen a proper salon in months. "Miss, you need to order something or leave," the barista said, not unkindly, but with the practiced firmness of someone who'd had this conversation before. Maya nodded, pulling her threadbare jacket tighter. She'd been nursing a small coffee for 2 hours, stealing warmth and Wi-Fi to search for jobs on her cracked phone. The $3.50 had been her last until tomorrow's shift at the temp agency, if they had work for her. "I'm sorry, I was just waiting for the rain to—" A commotion outside cut her off. A small golden retriever had broken free from its leash and was darting into traffic, its owner shouting frantically from the sidewalk. The dog, clearly panicked by the thunder, ran directly into the path of a speeding taxi. Maya didn't think. She burst through the coffee shop door and into the street, her sneakers slipping on the wet asphalt. The taxi's brakes screamed as she scooped up the trembling dog, rolling to absorb the impact as they hit the ground together. "Charlie! Oh God, Charlie!" A man's voice, rich with panic and relief. Maya looked up from where she sat on the wet pavement, the dog safe in her arms. The man rushing toward her was tall, impeccably dressed despite the rain, with dark hair and the kind of sharp jawline that belonged in magazine ads. But it was his eyes that caught her. Warm brown eyes filled with genuine fear that was quickly transforming into gratitude. "Is he hurt? Are you hurt?" The man knelt beside her, his expensive suit soaking up puddle water without any apparent concern. "He's okay," Maya said, gently checking the dog's legs and ribs. "Just scared. You should get him to a vet to be sure, but I think he's fine." The dog, Charlie, had stopped trembling and was now licking Maya's face with enthusiastic gratitude. She couldn't help but smile, the first genuine smile she'd worn in weeks. "I'm Adrian," the man said, carefully taking Charlie from her arms. "Adrian Blackwood. I can't thank you enough." If something had happened to him, his voice trailed off. "I'm Maya," she replied, accepting his hand as he helped her to her feet. The moment their skin touched, something electric passed between them. Adrian's grip lingered a moment longer than necessary. "Maya," he repeated, as if testing the name. Then something shifted in his expression, a flicker of recognition, confusion, almost fear. His face went pale beneath his tan. "Maya, what?" His voice was barely above a whisper. "Chen. Maya Chen." Adrian's hand dropped from hers as if burned. He took a step back, his eyes wide with what looked like shock and something else. Guilt? Pain? "I have to go," he said abruptly, clutching Charlie closer. "Thank you for saving him." Before Maya could respond, he was walking quickly, almost running, leaving her standing in the rain with a dozen questions and a strange, hollow feeling in her chest. Adrian Blackwood sat in his corner office on the 47th floor of the Blackwood Industries building, staring out at the city lights without seeing them. Charlie lay at his feet, fully recovered from his afternoon adventure, but Adrian felt like he'd been hit by that taxi instead. Maya Chen. After 15 years, she was here in New York City. The girl who'd been his entire world when they were kids, before his father's business empire had torn them apart. The girl he'd searched for, written to, dreamed about, until his parents had finally convinced him to let go. She didn't recognize him, that much was clear. But then, the Adrian Blackwood of today bore little resemblance to the awkward 12-year-old Andy Chen, who'd been his best friend in San Francisco's Chinatown. Back when his father had still been building the business, before the money and the power and the decision to anglicize their name from Chen to Blackwood for business purposes. His assistant knocked and entered without waiting for permission, a privilege earned through 5 years of managing his impossible schedule. Your father called about the Henderson acquisition. Also, there's a board meeting tomorrow at 9 about the new youth outreach program. Adrian's head snapped up. The what? The youth outreach program? You've been working on it for months. Scholarships and mentorship for underprivileged kids, your pet project? Right. The program that was supposed to assuage his guilt about having everything handed to him while others struggled. The program that suddenly felt painfully inadequate. Rebecca, I need you to find someone for me. Maya Chen. She's, she's about my age, probably lives in the city. I need to know everything. Where she works, lives, everything. Rebecca raised her eyebrow. This is about the woman who saved Charlie today, isn't it? Sometimes I forgot how perceptive she was. Just find her. Please. Maya's studio apartment in Queens was generous to call it that. It was barely large enough for a twin bed, a hot plate, and a shower that worked sporadically. But it was hers, and after 3 months of sleeping in shelters in her car, it felt like a palace. She sat on her bed, laptop balanced on her knees, applying for jobs with the methodical desperation of someone who'd been unemployed for 6 months. Her marketing degree from UC Berkeley felt like a cruel joke now. Who wanted to hire someone with a gap in their resume and an address in the wrong part of town? Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Any luck today? Dad's asking. She typed back. Still looking. Tell him not to worry. She didn't mention that she'd spent her last $20 on groceries and was now living on ramen and prayer. Her parents had sacrificed everything to immigrate from Taiwan and put her through college. They had lost their restaurant during the pandemic, and her father's health was failing. They couldn't know how badly she was struggling. Her laptop chimed with a new email. Maya's heart jumped. Maybe finally a response to one of her applications. Instead, it was from an address she didn't recognize. Adrian Blackwood at blackwoodindustries.com. Maya, I know this might seem strange, but I'd like to offer you a job. Blackwood Industries is launching a new community outreach program, and we need someone with your background and perspective. The salary is $80,000 to start, with benefits and the opportunity for advancement. If you're interested, please call my office to schedule an interview. Adrian Blackwood. Maya stared at the screen, reading the message 3 times. $80,000. More than she'd ever made in her life. It had to be a mistake, or worse, some kind of pity offer from the man whose dog she'd saved. She closed the laptop without responding. 3 days later, Maya was cleaning offices in a Manhattan high-rise, her temp agency having finally found her work. The night shift paid better, and she could avoid the pitying looks of the executives who treated her like she was invisible. She was emptying trash cans on the 30th floor when she heard voices from the conference room. The door was slightly ajar, and she could see several men in expensive suits around a gleaming table. The Henderson acquisition is going to displace 300 workers, but the cost savings will be significant. What about severance packages? This voice was familiar. Adrian Blackwood. Minimal. These are mostly factory workers. They'll find other jobs. Maya paused, her hand on the trash can. She'd done her research after receiving his email. Henderson Manufacturing was a family-owned company that had been making automotive parts for 40 years. Her neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, had worked there for 25 years. She was saving for her granddaughter's college tuition. I don't think that's acceptable, Adrian was saying. These people have families, mortgages, kids in college. Adrian, you're being sentimental, an older voice cut in. This is business. We're not a charity. Maybe we should be, Adrian replied. We're going to make $30 million in profit this year. We can afford to do the right thing. The right thing is maximizing shareholder value. I didn't build this company by being soft. You built it by being ruthless. Maybe it's time we built something different. The silence that followed was thick with tension. Maya should have moved on, should have minded her own business. Instead, she found herself pushing the door open slightly. Excuse me, she said, her heart hammering. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing.
The men turned to look at her, their faces ranging from surprised to annoyed. Only Adrian looked mortified. "Maya, what do you—" "I know this isn't my place," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "But Henderson Manufacturing employs people from my neighborhood. Mrs. Rodriguez down the hall, she's 62 and has been with the company for 25 years. She's saving for her granddaughter's college tuition." Charles Blackwood, Adrian's father, stood up slowly. "Young lady, I don't know who you are, but this is a private meeting." "I'm nobody important," Maya said, meeting his gaze steadily. "I'm just the woman who cleans your offices and sees the aftermath of your decisions. But those 300 workers, they're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They're people with families and dreams and bills to pay." She turned to Adrian, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't read.
His smile was soft and sad. "My father changed our name when the business started taking off. Said Blackwood sounded more American, more trustworthy to investors. I became Adrian. We moved to the Upper East Side, started attending private school. I looked for you for years, but we moved to Berkeley when I was 13, Maya said, her voice barely audible. My parents thought there would be more opportunities there. I know. I hired a private investigator when I turned 18. Found out you'd gotten a scholarship to UC Berkeley. I was so proud of you." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "You looked for me? I never stopped thinking about you. When I saw you in the street, saving Charlie, it was like the universe was giving me a second chance." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 15 years of separation between them. "The job offer," Maya said finally, "was it real, or was it just because you felt sorry for me?" Adrian leaned forward. "Both. I did feel sorry for you. Not because of who you are, but because of what you're going through. But the job is real. After what you said last night, I know you're exactly what this company needs." He slid a folder across the table. "Director of Community Relations. You'd be responsible for developing and implementing programs that actually help people, not just look good in press releases. Full benefits, stock options, and a budget to make real change." Maya opened the folder, her hands shaking slightly. The salary was even higher than he'd initially offered, $95,000 to start. "I don't understand. I've been unemployed for months. I clean offices at night. What makes you think I can do this?" "Because you stood up to a room full of executives and made them listen. Because you see people, not just profit margins. Because you're brave enough to run into traffic to save a dog, and brave enough to tell the truth when it matters." He paused, his expression becoming more vulnerable. "And because I've spent 15 years becoming someone my 12-year-old self wouldn't recognize. Maybe you can help me remember who I used to be." Maya's first day at Blackwood Industries was a revelation. Her office was on the 43rd floor, with a view of Central Park and furniture that probably cost more than her car. Rebecca, Adrian's assistant, had taken her under her wing, explaining the company's structure and introducing her to key personnel. "Adrian specifically requested that you report directly to him. That's unusual for a new hire, but then again, Adrian's been different lately, more focused." Maya was setting up her desk when Adrian appeared in her doorway, Charlie trotting behind him. "How's your first day going?" "Surreal," I admitted. "Yesterday I was cleaning these offices. Today I have my own office in the same building." "Charlie wanted to thank you again," Adrian said, and as if on cue, the dog trotted over to Maya and sat at her feet, tail wagging. Maya laughed, scratching behind his ears. "He's welcome in my office anytime." "Good, because I bring him to work most days. One of the perks of being the boss." There was an awkward pause, the kind that comes when two people are trying to navigate a relationship that's both brand new and 15 years old. "Adrian," Maya said carefully, "I want to make sure this is professional. I don't want people thinking I got this job because of our history." "They won't," Adrian said firmly. "You'll earn their respect the same way you earned mine, by being brilliant." Over the next few weeks, Maya threw herself into her work with the intensity of someone who'd been given a second chance. She researched best practices for corporate social responsibility, reached out to community organizations, and began developing programs that would actually make a difference. Her first major presentation was to the board of directors, including Charles Blackwood, who had made his disapproval of her clear since the Henderson meeting. Maya had prepared for 3 weeks, and her hands were shaking as she stood before the room full of executives. The Henderson acquisition presents an opportunity to redefine what corporate responsibility means. Instead of simply displacing workers, we can create a model for ethical business practices that other companies will follow. She outlined her plan: comprehensive retraining programs, partnerships with local colleges, a fund to help workers transition to new careers, and early retirement packages for older employees. The program would cost $2.3 million, less than 8% of the projected profit from the acquisition. When she finished, the room was silent. Charles Blackwood's expression was unreadable. "The cost is significant," he said finally. "So is the return," Maya replied. "Good publicity, employee loyalty, community goodwill. But more than that, it's the right thing to do." "And if other companies don't follow our example, if we're just giving away money for nothing?" Maya met his gaze steadily. "Then we'll be the company that chose people over profit. In a market where consumers increasingly care about corporate values, that's not just ethical, it's smart business." The board voted to approve her proposal 7-2. As autumn turned to winter, Maya found herself working closely with Adrian on various projects. Their professional relationship was seamless. He valued her input, trusted her judgment, and gave her the freedom to implement her ideas. But underneath the professional courtesy, there was a tension that neither of them acknowledged. They were working late one evening, reviewing applications for the new scholarship program, when Adrian looked up from his laptop. "Do you remember that summer when we were 10 and you taught me to make dumplings?" Maya smiled at the memory. "You were terrible at it. The filling kept falling out. Your grandmother was so patient with me. She said I had clumsy American hands." "She loved you," Maya said softly. "She used to say you were the grandson she never had." "I still think about her sometimes. She died while I was in college, didn't she?" Maya nodded, unable to speak around the sudden tightness in her throat. "I should have been there. I should have found a way to stay in touch." "We were kids," Maya said. "It wasn't your fault." "Wasn't it? My father made the choice to cut ties with our community, with our culture. I could have fought harder to maintain those connections." Maya looked at him, seeing the guilt he'd been carrying for years. "You were a child, Adrian. You did what you had to do to survive in your new world." "Maybe, but I lost myself in the process. I became someone I didn't recognize." "You saved Charlie from traffic," Maya said quietly. "That's still the same person I knew as a kid." Their eyes met across the conference table, and for a moment 15 years collapsed into nothing. Maya felt her heart racing, remembering the boy who'd been her first friend, her first crush, her first heartbreak when he disappeared from her life. "Adrian," Adrian said, his voice rough with emotion. "We should probably head home," Maya said quickly, standing up. "It's getting late." The moment shattered, but the feeling lingered. The Henderson transition program was a massive success. Every displaced worker had either found new employment or entered retraining programs. The story had been picked up by major media outlets, and Blackwood Industries was being held up as a model for corporate responsibility. Maya was featured in a Forbes article titled "The Cleaning Lady Who Changed Corporate America," which simultaneously thrilled and mortified her. She was proud of her work, but the attention made her uncomfortable. "You're becoming famous," Rebecca said, dropping a stack of interview requests on Maya's desk. "I just want to do my job." But she was smiling. The success of the Henderson program had led to bigger opportunities. Maya was developing a network of community partnerships, launching internship programs, and working on an affordable housing initiative. She was also being courted by headhunters from other companies, though she hadn't mentioned that to Adrian. The Christmas party was held at the Plaza Hotel, a lavish affair that Maya felt underdressed for despite her new wardrobe.
She was standing by the windows watching the snow fall over Central Park when Adrian approached with 2 glasses of champagne. Hiding from the crowd? Taking a break from being the inspiration story, Maya said, accepting the glass. Did you see the article in the Times? They called me a modern-day Horatio Alger tale. You don't like the attention. I don't like being treated like a mascot, like I'm some kind of miracle instead of just a person who worked hard. I understand. I've been the poster child for a young executive making a difference since I was 25. It gets exhausting. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the party continue around them. Maya was acutely aware of Adrian's presence beside her, the way he rolled up his sleeves and loosened his tie, the way he kept glancing at her when he thought she wasn't looking. Maya, he said finally, I need to tell you something. But before he could continue, Charles Blackwood approached them with a woman Maya didn't know, tall, elegant, with the kind of polished beauty that came from expensive stylists and good breeding. Adrian, there you are, Charles said. I'd like you to meet Elizabeth Thornton. Her father runs Thornton Investments. The woman extended her hand to Adrian with a smile that was both beautiful and calculating. I've heard so much about you. Maya felt something cold settled in her stomach as she watched the interaction. This wasn't a casual introduction. This was a setup. Elizabeth just moved back from London, Charles continued. She's looking for new opportunities in the city. How nice, Adrian said politely, but Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. I should let you two get acquainted, Charles said, taking Maya's arm. Maya, there are some board members who'd like to meet you. Maya allowed herself to be led away, but she couldn't stop herself from glancing back at Adrian and Elizabeth.